I've been very fortunate. One of my first internships actually was at the Rwanda Development Board. It opened my eyes up to what Rwanda was doing at a very young age.
Most people, when they think about RCB, they're thinking that, oh yeah, the sound system.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about the why? Why was it set up, and why does it exist, and why does it matter? Why are events important to an economy?
To be intentional around mice was very important, because what we see across Africa is that some people haven't been able to do that. And you mentioned why it's important to have events. The great thing about the mice industry is that it touches on so many different sectors. How do we partner with the right people, right companies to help us figure out how best to collect the data that we have in Rwanda? Really, that's what we're trying to really focus on. But really, to have a standalone policy and bureau was very important for us to grow our mice industry, because then...
What do you think makes Rwanda stand out?
Our selling points when we're coming to sell to you as an event organizer is the content we'll be able to give you. Then of course there's the infrastructure. People are always about our cleanliness and safety. Like the lit streets, the clean streets, the security, how easy it is to get here. And it makes more sense why maybe this conference happened here.
Where's the opportunity here?
Yeah. If you can build me an exhibition hall of over 20,000 or so square meters tomorrow, I'm looking for you.
Janet, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me today.
I'm so glad, and I'm very interested about the conversation that we're about to have today, because I think the work that you do, there's a lot of misconception about it, and we're going to try to, explain some of those things and get clarity about what exactly is that you guys do.
Yeah.
I'm super curious. When you get appointed as CEO for this position, and you started your first day, you're like, okay, great, I'm CEO now. What were some of the things on top of your mind where you're like, these are some of the challenges that I've noticed. Now that I'm the leader of this organization, I really want to focus on these things. Because we all have some of those things where we're like, okay, when I get to that position, I'm going to have a lot more power to be able to make these things happen. What were some of those things for you?
So I think, luckily, in the position I was in, I was the deputy CEO before I was a CEO. So until March 2023, I was serving as a deputy CEO since 2019. So that's almost, 4 years. And the good thing about my previous CEO, she was really good at keeping me involved in a lot of this decision making. We were really a team. So I didn't really think that what am I going to do different, more what am I going to continue? We were in the midst of trying to kind of change our mandate. We really want to change the mandate of the RCB, figure out what the next 10 years or so looks like for the mice industry and the bureau specifically. So we were looking at how to strengthen our teams, how to, like I said, strengthen our mandate in terms of being a regulatory body, how to move the numbers, right? We had come out of COVID. We were still trying to climb out of what COVID had put us into. So it's continuing that. How do we grow our events? How do we bring bigger events and with increased spending? So really, that was really what we're looking at. And of course, there's some aspects that are also our board and we had worked on, like growing our homegrown events in Rwanda. Events that are done and created by Rwandans that will stay in Rwanda. How do we become a data-driven institution? How do we influence government decisions based off of data? And really, that's what we're trying to really focus on. And that continues on into today. How do we partner with the right people, right companies to help us figure out how best to collect the data that we have in Rwanda? When guests come into the country, what do they spend on? What are they looking for? Event organizers, what more can we do for them? How can we become that real hub on the continent and beyond for events?
Yeah. Interesting. When you're on YouTube, I'm sort of what you can call a YouTuber now. When you're on YouTube and you're researching, various different countries, Rwanda pops up a lot, especially recently, hosting a lot of events. Rwanda is the destination that a lot of organizations or governments are trying to host, so many different summits. What do you think makes Rwanda stand out, right, as a destination for mice? Because this is a highly competitive space, but what does Rwanda has to offer?
So some of our selling points, our unique selling points, as we would call it, are what Rwanda has done, government of Rwanda has done from a foundation. whether it's our visa regime that allows people to not have to apply for a visa, just come get your visa upon arrival. For some people, the visa fees even waived if you're from the African Union, from Francophone community, Commonwealth. So you're able to get your visa fees waived. So that allows a lot of people across the world to be able to come to Rwanda. In terms of our governance, some of our selling points when you're coming to sell to you as an event organizer is the content we'll be able to give you. If you're, for example, a Women Deliver that we hosted last year, and you're hosting one of the most important gender empowerment conferences globally, you want to be in the country that has some of the top, strategy, not just strategies, but policies around gender empowerment, right? With the number of women in parliament, number one in government and private sector. They want to be part of that. They want to showcase that story. Even in what we do in health and IT, everything connected to gender was pulled into that conference. In sports, in ICT, we have hosted GSMA, the Mobile World Congress, for the last 3-4 years. And hopefully further beyond, it's because of what our government has done in ICT. We're going to host the AI conference in October. That's because Rwanda is leading on AI policy in Africa. So it's beyond what a venue can just provide for you. It's what we can also give to you in terms of content, speakers, and all that. Then, of course, there's the infrastructure. We have state-of-the-art conference center, the Kigali Convention Center. We have the BK Arena. If you want sports, we have now the stadium, the Mahoro Stadium, that was just, renovated and refurbished and increased its capacity to 45,000 people. And then also for smaller conferences, we can have the Marriott Hotel. We have different, what we can offer in terms of venue capacity and venue offerings is very great. So we look at that. You look at the ecosystem. We have great professional conference organizers who continue to grow their skill set. We went from having about a few, like 3-4 in 2015, 2016. Now we have about 25 active PCOs who can fit different ranges of budget, different ranges of interest, segments, whether it's corporate or government or sports and all. So we have diverse offerings. And of course, Kigali City, what it offers, right? It's a beautiful, safe, clean city, easy to get around, really. So those are some of the selling points that we go for. And of course, everyone wants to know what's Visit Rwanda. So our tourism offerings also attract people. People come here and like, oh, I can go see the Big Five an hour away, or I can go see, the gorillas if that's on my bucket list while I'm here. So these are some of the selling points really that people want to come to Rwanda for.
Yeah. Let's take a step back into your career journey to where you are now. Now that you've been CEO and you've taken on this organization, leading people and organizing all these events, what do you feel like early in your professional development actually prepared you for the kind of challenges that you're facing today on a day-to-day basis in your profession? What are some of those things that you can think of?
Okay. I don't think I can think of one particular lesson or something. I think really I've been very fortunate. One of my first internships actually was at the Rwanda Development Board. This was between my second and third year of university. I came home a few months before I came home, I really want to intern at RDB. I think it was just one of the first early years of RDB. This was 2010, I believe. And it started off, it's becoming, what's happening at RDB? This is a cool institution in Rwanda. So I really wanted to understand what's going on there. So luckily, I was able to get in contact with the head of the Department of Investment and asked if I can do an internship. It wasn't a very exciting internship, but it opened my eyes up to what Rwanda was doing at a very young age. I was 20.
What was it?
Investment. So what I did was mostly filling out a lot of data on Excel. Yeah. The stuff they throw to the interns. Going to meetings, contacting people for workshops. Because this was really when RDB was front face. It was really connected to the private sector. So if they had a delegation coming in, we'd contact people to come and meet them. We'd contact them for workshops. If there was a mining conference, we'd contact people for that. So it was really a lot of that kind of interactions with the private sector. So it really opened my eyes up to what Rwanda was doing and made me very passionate about economic development. I was already studying international development, but that was really more civil society, UN, international organizations. And after 2 years in university, I realized, I'm like, this is great, but it's not for me. Mm-hmm. I would really want to go into something that's the front facing of economic development and transformation for my country. And that's what RDB was doing. So when I got back when I graduated 2 years later, I was like, I was thinking I'm going to do an MBA. because I'm like, maybe I'm going to go into business. Let me figure out how to, help people strategize around this. But I didn't know what that actually looked like at 21. Then 2, I was like, I'm going to go back to RDB. Let me see if I can get a job there. So again, I applied. I looked for opportunities there. It took a few months. And fortunately, I did get a job there again in investment promotion as a very junior officer. So again, kind of doing like that kind of work, but again, like working under great people, like former CEO Claire, she was a head of investment at that time. So seeing a young woman in charge of a department and busy and everything, I was like, oh, that's something I want to do, From there, I went to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. That was also great because I was working in the minister's office now. I got this opportunity to work in the minister's office, and again, working for another amazing woman. The challenges there, we were going through different growth. Rwanda was able to be on the Security Council, so I saw that whole campaign of how Rwanda lobbied around, Africa and everything to get on that position, and different foreign, diplomatic, events. So I was able to attend the African Union. I was able to get experience from this kind of stuff. But one consistent thing was events has always been kind of there. One thing I'll always know is like, I was always like attending events or helping in events. I worked with the team at Kwibuka. I think it was Kwibuka 25, I believe, or 20. We were there and, we're just building from there. Then I was like, okay, Janet, this is great. But now remember the promise to do an MBA. You're going to go do an MBA, but you've worked in government. Now you've been in diplomacy or foreign affairs. How are you going to transition to an MBA? Go to the private sector. So what I did is look for a job in a startup. I was able to work there as a project manager, which also exposed me to a different way of working. Now I'm working with clients. I'm talking to private sector. I'm now kind of having to fit or find how to fix their needs or fix their challenges and problems. Whereby in government, it was kind of like, we kind of know how to fix our things. It's kind of internal. It's not really like client facing. It's not that. It's kind of, there's a lot of admin or meetings and policy and diplomacy, and you're kind of dealing in that kind of world. And now I'm in a startup where everything is kind of scrappy. Like, we're looking for clients. You're serving different clients from one to another, and it's a smaller team. It's not a big ministry. So if you want to, certain things, whether it's one of my colleagues sitting next to me was the one doing payroll. Meanwhile, in a ministry, there's like a big finance department who figures out how you get paid. And now next door, she's the one who's doing my payroll. So it was really great. And it exposed me to that, like where there's like the big structure of a government and ministry, which I'm sure at that time government was not considered, but we had, different structures. There's development. There's departments are in charge of bilateral relations, departments in charge of whether it's RDB investment and ICT, and whereby here we kind of do everything. You're a project manager for maybe a brewery company, but also for a NGO. So you need to figure out how to cater to those two different needs and those two different budgets. So learning how to work with resources also was very important at that stage. And how to work with founders of a company, that also exposed me to a lot, because you're a founder of a company. We started off with maybe just you, and maybe you said your co-founder. But then you increase to 1, 2, 3, 4 people. And I'm sure the corporate culture or the company culture changed along that. So that was also interesting to learn. And how do I treat people who come into teams differently? How do I engage them? How do I onboard them properly and show them what the company is supposed to be doing and what our mission and vision is? So it was kind of things like that. So it was really interesting. And I was there for exactly 1 year. Again, my dream was to go to do my MBA. So 1 year in, I get a call to go to work for the First Lady, Her Excellency, the First Lady. And I was blown away, because I was like, are you sure? it's me. So my future colleagues were like, oh no, it's you, come in for an interview and all that. And it was great. And there I got to, my mind, that grew tenfold. And I always say there I learned soft skills. Lots of hard skills too, but soft skills a lot of time, because again, I always wanted to know how to drive and transform my community. But there's the RDB, the macro, that kind of level, private sector and all that. But the holistic approach that her foundation, like the First Lady's foundation, has towards community and transformation of the community is none other. Like we look at children, we look at women, we look at young girls' education, women's health, I should say, early childhood development, and education there. We look at, young boys in mentorship. We had a young boys mentorship program. It was really youth. We used to have this thing called Youth Forum Series where we were talking about, it was always topics that were considered maybe not easy for a lot of people to discuss, but we were there to talk about it. You know, I think even recently I saw that they had a Youth Forum Series around, the 20 Less campaign about, you know, alcohol consumption and young people. So how do we address that? And those kind of the things that we got to work on. And of course, there's her role also as the first lady of the country, where she's on the Continental with other African first ladies, and what are they doing for African families, and what is children, women again, and young girls and men. So it was really interesting in that sense, how to really work with so many diverse communities. One thing for sure, my Kenya Rwanda improved, because I was going to meetings in the middle of, I got to travel across Rwanda way more than I had. I traveled a lot as a young kid, but now as an adult, seeing different things and seeing different communities and learning more, talking to mayors, talking to executive secretaries, you know, sometimes I'd be the one who had to communicate what we needed to do. So that was really interesting. We'd have a lot, but one thing again, events. I was in charge of protocol in her office. So doing events in upcountry, how does this look like? How do we make sure that it's not just about event, but about the beneficiaries? What are we trying to communicate in our events? You know, so I think it was, and working with my colleagues, of course, there's colleagues from the foundation and there are colleagues from comms and, you know, all that kind of stuff. And the local district. So it was really diverse team. So you're always trying to see how best to serve everybody and communicate in a way that they will understand and you'll get what you need to get out of it. So that was really interesting lesson. That was really 5 years of growth for me. Yeah. That was I was between 25 to 29, 30. Yeah. So that was a big part of my late 20s, I can say. And then luckily after I went and did my MBA, I was very fortunate enough to be offered the job at RCB as the deputy CEO. And again, I'm like, Evans, I just did an MBA. I want to do more strategy. And they're like, yeah, there's a bit of that there. But like you said, the misconception about what RCB does is just that we do events. And that's not true. We don't just do events. For those events to come here, there's a whole process. Sometimes 2 years, 3 years of bidding. Sometimes you bid for it 5 years. Like right now, my team or my colleagues and I, we're bidding for events in 2028, 2032. I don't know if I'll be there, but the point is to have a calendar, and that considers you have to do business development, you have to do market research, you have to sell yourself, but also continue following up with on your sales, partners, following up with clients, following up with people who already had an event and bring them back. Yeah. You know, so there's we have the department called Destination Marketing that really handles all that. Then we have our events coordination team that is definitely more of the front facing and more of the visible team. So yeah, so those are kind of the lessons. And now coming into this position, I was coming from more being internal Rwanda. I always say I was more what's happening in the country on the ground, and now I'm more selling the country now. But all that matters for us that has to be there for us to sell our country, right? Yeah, you have to have a healthy, safe community. People, runners have to be happy for us to be able to attract these events. Yeah. So it's kind of, it's so some along the way, a lot of different things, but I think ultimately understanding my country, what we need to do to get to where we need to go, has always been consistent. And I'm grateful for every step, whether it's a public or private sector, that I was able to do that, because I wouldn't be in this role right now to be able to cater to both. I work with private sector and I work with public sector. And I wouldn't be able to do that if I hadn't had those experiences. Yeah.
That would make sense. And a lot of things to unpack there.
Yeah, sorry. I went off on a tangent.
No, that's great. One thing that just got stuck in me, I just remembered what we were talking about earlier, was the misconception about, RCB. And I was like, most people, when they think about RCB, they're thinking that, the sound system that is in the stadium, right? Yeah. The lights. Hey guys, can you fix the lights, please? We want to see better. Yeah. But clearly there's a lot more to that. Or people think that, these are the people managing the convention center.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, the security guards getting in. Like,
I get calls.
People, right?
During COVID, we get calls about weddings. And I'm like, listen, that is not part of the MICE industry. Because they'd be like, you know, the venues for the weddings. I'm like, that's not RCB, but I can direct you to the right person. That's more of a local government situation, you know, things like that. Yeah.
Yeah. It was like, we're launching, when we celebrate BAG for 10 years, I think we're gonna call you guys.
You should. We're always there for advice.
But maybe you can tell us why was RCB, and when we say RCB, what we're talking about is Rwanda Convention Bureau. Just for everybody.
Yeah.
Why was the Rwanda Convention Bureau set up?
Yeah.
Why are events important?
Yes.
To an economy? Everybody thinks about events and they're like, surely you're not making a lot of money from that. It's just like a room and two microphones and that's it, right?
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about the why? Why was it set up and why does it exist and why does it matter?
Yes.
Let's start there.
So the Rwanda Convention Bureau was set up because, again, the vision of our leadership in this country is always many steps ahead. We were looking at tourism, of course, and I'm sure there's conversations that I'm beyond what I know, but I know for sure is that it first started off with a small desk within the tourism department at RDB. From the desk, you know, people were trained, we got a strategy, and a decision was made for it to actually be not just a desk, not just a department, but an institution. A standalone institution that's able to adapt, be flexible, because our industry is very much that. It's always growing, always evolving. So we need an institution that's flexible and for it to have a standalone policy to drive what this can potentially be. And that's what it was. Like, we were able to grow, you know, RCB, when it first was ranked, I believe it was, 2016, 2015 or so, we were at number 21. Now we've grown to be number 2 in terms of Kigali being the second preferred destination in Africa and Rwanda being the second preferred country in Africa in terms of the numbers of the meetings we host and events that we host. So that was very intentional to have a bureau to be able to follow up on that. As it stands now, we share our responsibilities with RDB, whereby their tourism department department is in charge of leisure tourism. But of course, they regulate the industry in terms of hospitality and such. So we fall under them and we work hand in hand. But for us, for our government to have be intentional around MICE was very important, because what we see across Africa is that some people haven't been able to do that. And that's what happens. You stay in a certain under the leisure tourism. You feed into it. But really to have a standalone policy and bureau is very important for us to grow our MICE. It was very important for us to grow our MICE industry, because then you can speak up for the MICE industry. You're in charge of the ecosystem. You can, drive sales. You have to kind of operate like a private sector, right? There's not many government institutions that you hear have a sales department or, a market research. It's different. So, it's very much a private sector, kind of industry. So we had to act like that. And having a bureau is very important for that. Yeah. And you mentioned why is it important to have events? So the great thing about the MICE industry is that it touches on so many different, sectors. Right? Earlier I mentioned about content and all that, but when you think about, for example, a delegate comes into the country, right? They come into the airport. There's maybe a taxi outside, right? The taxi takes them to their hotel, their accommodation. Then the next day they get a taxi, maybe they go to a venue. The venue has staff, it has ushers maybe for the event. Ushers who are telling you where to go, or volunteers who are telling you where to go, what to do, answering your questions. At lunch or your tea break, you're having food that's grown in that country. So that means there's a farmer who grew that food, who sold it somewhere, and they got to the KCC. The KCC, then during your event, there's people who are running the show. That means, like you mentioned, the sound and AV people. The fact that we now have young people in our TVET who are trained in, maybe they were before they were just going to be like electricians or something, who are now going into sound engineering or, installing lights. How do you build a stage? What's the right way to have a first stage? All these things did not exist until the MICE industry was created 10 years ago, right? we would not have I remember the first season of BAL, KCC looking for, I don't know how many tons of chicken, because these basketball players, because it was a bubble, we were in a bubble, and these basketball players were eating through the food. So imagine how our farmers did that season, right? Or when we had Chogam, you have how many people we hosted Women Deliver last year, 6,000 people for 3-4 days straight. KCC had to give tea breaks, food, this. So imagine how their suppliers were working. Water, juices, soda, everything. It really has a trickle down effect, and which is what's so amazing about our industry. It's not just the bureau alone. Yeah. We work with, for example, we're always working with MINAFRA on how to improve our transport system in the city. What are delegates responding to? Our taxis working well? Are the motos working well? So we give feedback. So we do surveys, we give feedback, so it really touches on so many different industries. Our creative industry. We saw just recently at the basketball, now during halftime shows, artists are performing. That means that's a job that they didn't have before the BK Arena was there, maybe. Or we have poets during opening ceremonies, we usually have our cultural troops dancing at different dinners and social events. So, it really adds in. So our industry touches on so many different aspects, and it's so important to see the growth of it. And when you hear in 2023, we earned or generated 95 million, which is just anywhere that's just what was put into what we were able to account for, that was put into our economy. Those are jobs. That's revenue that went home. Someone got paid for something and they went home and fed their family. So that's what's important about our industry.
Yeah. And, when you talked about, some of the things that you wanted to focus on as a CEO, was, how do you make it a data-driven organization? Yeah. Right? So, what sort of metrics, apart from, X number of events, we organize X number of events. What are the metrics that you guys look at in terms of being able to determine the success of the industry? Yeah. Also keeping in mind that, we just, we're making a joke about that, about, you guys not being the ones, organizing and doing the sounds and everything. Yeah. But then, are you guys closely working with these service providers to ensuring, where you would know, this person who was an usher at the airport got paid $50 to be able to do that service. So you can track those things, and you can collectively say, okay, great, this is how much actually got into the country. So how do you approach data, and where does your role as an institution come in? Are you monitoring everybody and say, hey, those poets better be paid, or are you more facilitating and giving the contracts to these organizations?
So just to explain, so for example, like I mentioned, we'll go out there and bid for the event, right? So we'll bring the event in. We'll work with the event planner. We have a recommended list of various suppliers and service providers. So then once they come in, they are able to, they work out their own contract. We don't get really too involved in their detailed, because we don't want to micromanage the private sector, right? If you're a professional conference organizer, you have your set list of prices, you have your set way of working, you're able to have a creative conversation with the event organizer. We won't manage it too much, but what we do is to make sure that you meet the standards that we've all set together, right? So that we don't go backwards. We don't go back. So, do we make sure, for example, that PCO, if 3, 4, 5 months from now, they come back to us and say, hey, this person never paid us. We try to advise, we try to communicate with the client, we try to follow up with them. And because we also are part of protecting our private sector, right? And also protecting the event organizer who came into our country, whether through us or, because, actually, if you look at how many events now, I think last year, if we had 160 events, really 30 events are what we bid for and brought in. A lot of the others came in on their own or contacted us. So 30 are what we actually worked on, because a bid, like I said, can take months. And also those are the ones we actually worked on. And others we either was a easy conversation or they came into the country, which goes back to all the different things about our reputation. People are now coming to us. So how do we track the data? We have revenues that are generated. So say company A had an event, we'll track what they spent in the country. And a lot of them are happy to share that with us because it shows economic spend on their event, right? Then 2, we look at the number of delegates that came in, and of course, number of events that came in. And then under events, we have different segments. So we break that down too. And we try to see which ones need more support and which ones need more investment in. In terms of jobs, again, we work a lot with the tourism department at RDB, which is why jobs fall under tourism. Yeah. I know like last year we were able to create, the tourism industry was able to create 230,000 jobs. And of course, MICE is part of that. But for us, really, we want to be a bit more focused on data so that we track even more. Like you said, like if an usher got paid for this job, where did that job, what else were they able to do? Kind of like track the dollar, kind of, all these different leaks. Like, for example, if you came for a conference, I don't know exactly if you went to have dinner here or you went to have dinner there. So how do we figure out what you actually spent in the country? So that's what we mean about becoming more of a data driven. And then when we go to that data will then help us to talk to private sector and public sector. Yeah. For example, one of the segments that we really want to get into as the bureau, what we're pushing for is an exhibition. Mm. You've been to trade shows, these big halls where you can have huge pavilions and we need something like that. And that's, for us to do that, we have to sell to government and say, listen, we had how many exhibitions last year? We're looking to bid for this many in the coming years. Do you think there's any private sector or investor that would be interested in coming to partner with the government on this? And we were able to show the return on investment that they would be able to get after a certain amount of time. So that's really what we're trying to do with the data we collect. And also to know what people like doing in Rwanda. Inzovu Mall is going to open next door to KCC. That came from somewhere. I remember sitting down with them. They're like, oh, do people shop in Rwanda? They're like, yes. What do they usually say? They say there's not much to buy, or they don't know where to go buy. Because, for example, all our Made in Rwanda stores are scattered across the city, and people only have, when you're a business traveler, you only have a few hours in your time, right? You're not going to go to Gachudo, then you go all the way to town, and then you want to figure out how close can everything be. Mm-hmm. So we've tried to do that. And KCC, for example, opened a Made in Rwanda store inside KCC to cater to those needs. And they're doing really well because of that. So that's kind of stuff we want to show, like, okay, 20 delegates came, 15 bought, and this is what they actually bought. Is it coffee? Is it tea? What we think is coffee, but maybe a lot of people are sending on clothes. How do we support the Made in Rwanda, clothing brands? So, things like that. So that's really what we want our data to help with.
How would you track that? In my mind, it's, the tech entrepreneur mind.
Maybe you have the next solution.
And it just popped in my head. I was like, hey, we should have a conversation after this. But how would you track that? How would you track that? I came here for a summit. Yeah. And then I went to this restaurant and then I consumed X amount of money. How would you track that?
Exactly.
Hypothetically.
So that's the thing. So that's where we've had challenges before. But then when you think about it, in Rwanda, we're really quite connected, right? In terms of we have a very strong tax system. Mm. We have a very strong, EBMs and all that. So central bank knows where payments are being made. They can just tell us like, hey, during this week, there was an increase of this amount of money into the economy that was attributed to this kind of conference because it happened around maybe this area or this radius or this or the key hospitality areas. What was happening? Well, we actually had, say, A, B, C, D. This event happened this week, I think as someone who lives in Kigali, you kind of generally get a feel of what's happening in the city when we say we have the Basketball Africa League or when we had the Africa CEO Forum, people were going out for dinners, and we could work with key places and say, listen, we would like to know, did you see an increase in spending in your thing? Could you give us an estimate of what that looked like? Because at the end of the day, a lot of it is estimate, but it's easy to work because of how connected we are, because of all the different infrastructure that our government has put in place and even our private sector has put in place. Yeah. So when we know at immigration, people say, I'm coming in for a conference. So that means people know that this person, we've had thousands of people come in for conferences. So how do we track that? We have an estimated daily spend that we've kind of surveyed and found out that the people spend when they come to Kigali. So we kind of use that kind of formula. And that's how we kind of gauge also our return on investment. When the government brings in all these events, there's some times that they have to spend. So we have to show the return on investment for government is that he spent A, B, C, D, but he got this out of it. And that's literally how the MICE industry works in other countries too. You know, like you ask a competition, we sometimes compete with cities like Abu Dhabi, you know, Melbourne in Australia, in South Africa and Canada. So you're competing with countries that can easily just put money down, and you're like, okay, what is our selling point though? You know, so so that's how we're trying to track this, so we can have real discussion on what a return on investment is and where the gaps are too. When people say, oh, you need more cars in the city, or we need this, where's the data on that? You know, what are people actually using? Are they using taxis, or is government doing shuttle buses? You know, so things like that. You know? So
as a service provider,
a
restaurant, or I have a fleet of cars. How do I sign up to be on this list to be considered and be brought into the conversation when these things are happening?
So one, we advertise for everybody in general. So there are recommended or approved, or I should say recommended, list of professional conference organizers, for example. That means you're registered in RDB as a professional conference organizer. That means we'll meet with you. You have services. You have a service to provide. You want to be part of our industry. So we go on roadshows together. So that's how we get to know people. So if you wake up and you say, I have a fleet of cars, well, you have to register with me in IFRA and RURA. So, cause the transport industry is quite regulated, for people's safety, obviously. So, and then also if you have a restaurant, you have a hospitality license with RDB. So we go from that list. So there's lists on people's websites. So there's usually, you know, restaurants in Rwanda or Kigali. You're able to see the list of restaurants. For us, it's mostly like venues and professional conference organizers that are obvious because you registered in RDB and you're working as a professional conference organizer. And of course, like I mentioned earlier, we're really pushing for there to be an association so that they can also be accountable to each other and maintain the standards that we've all built. So that'll be one of the ways that you're able to also be more recognized. But it's a very sales-driven industry. You have to get out there and look for business. Not everything, because like I said, if out of 160, only 30 actually came through RCB, and also in the 30, Janet doesn't have a say on who Yusuf actually talks to. Because Yusuf, you can do your research and say PCOs in Rwanda. And if you see A, B, C, D, you're going to choose who you want. You're going to contact them. Whoever gives you the best deal is going to give you the best deal. For us, we have to make sure that there's company A, B, C, D. That's my job. Make sure that there's actually companies to talk to. Make sure the companies that you talk to are legitimate and are, you know, if you ask me, oh, Janet, do you know this company, or RCB, do you know this company? We'll be like, yes, we do know them. They've done many events before. You can work with them. No problem. But I don't have a say in the business that will be done between you and that company.
Interesting.
So you have to get out there. You have to get out there. You can't, it's before a lot of the events did come from government in the past, but really where it's going, people are creating their own events. They're meeting clients on their own. We go for these trade shows. You have B2B meetings. You have to sell yourself. You're selling, the destination is there. That's what RCB is supposed to make sure. The destination is there. It's favorable. Whatever feedback we get, we share with the right government institutions or the private sector, but you have to go and get the business.
Back on that question, actually, I think, maybe if you create a voucher system, where you save some of these, you know, in a big conference, everybody, hey, the conference is ending today. If you want to go and have dinner, or you want to go
definitely, we've thought about
some vouchers. You can go there, you can get a discount, and maybe that could be a good way to attract
definitely
with the providers.
You're such a tech person. You've already but if you really want, so we've thought about, like, for example, having an app whereby there's a barcode or something that someone can use, whereby they can kind of like show at whichever restaurant or whatever that I'm coming from this conference, so you're able to get something, maybe a discount or incentive. Exactly. Oh, definitely. It's in the plans. So it's in the plans. It's in the plans. We will see the Visit Rwanda. You asked me one of some of my priorities. Visit Rwanda app.
Visit Rwanda app.
Yeah.
Okay. No, that's good. I think that would definitely solve or contribute to the data-driven approach, because at least now you have some traceability there.
It's a big priority for RCB and even our board to have an app going very soon and be able to share information. Because that's another thing that people say, oh, I don't know where to do this. I don't know where to do that. But yet we think we have the Visit Rwanda website, we have the Instagrams, and you're like, you still don't know where, or even RCB's website, we still don't know where that is, but people like stuff to be in their hand. And so an app is our next solution for that.
Rwanda has hosted a number of great events, prestigious events. I mean, we've all seen them.
Yeah.
We feel the impact on the visit of the events happening. When you look at it, what would be one of the biggest events that you could say, okay, this one was challenging. This one was challenging, right? And can you take us behind the scenes of this event and which one it was, if you want to tell us about that?
So challenging, I think, was on personal level. I think challenging is when we didn't have venues. So I remember when we were hosting the World Economic Forum for Africa in 2016. I was still in the office of the First Lady, but they put us on a special team to help with these events. And KCV was tense, but to get to a level where we could host the World Economic Forum, it had to really be upgraded. And, the weeks are going by and everything, and you're just wondering, is this going to be ready? But you know what? I've had so many of those situations in my life now where I know there's nothing that's impossible to this government. Honestly, nothing. We hosted the event. It went well. We didn't have a big transport fleet then. We didn't have many hotels. The KCC wasn't open. Marriott wasn't open. We had the Serena and a few others. So really it was, really week by week, day by day, we were just like, are we going to be able to do it? But we did it, with real collaboration across all private and public sector. After there was the African Union Summit with heads of state, 2016 in June. Again, the KCC was not ready, I think, a few weeks before. We really opened actually a few weks before. And I remember, even the roads, even the roundabout nearby here, it appeared overnight and people were like, what's going on? What's going on? So, those kind of challenges, infrastructure is really where I think I would say, until we had the right venues, where I would say I would be worried. Of course, then we had, in 2019, we hosted ICASA, which is an international conference on AIDS Society or something like that in Africa. That was a big win for us too, because that has opened a lot of doors after that for us to host events. But that was the biggest one. I think we went up to 3,000, 4,000 people of diverse backgrounds from across the world. And they bid for it. They bid with KCC. And in a few months before, we realized we need more space. That's when the tents across first were put there. And we realized, okay, we thought the KCC is big, but we actually need more space to go where we're trying to go. But again, we found a solution, built beautiful tented space, great infrastructure of bathrooms and everything. And we were able to deliver, and people had a great event. And like I said, it opened us up to so many more events that we're actually hosting the global version of that, not just the Africa one, hosting the global version of that next year because of what we were able to do. Even Women Deliver, where we got up to almost 6,000 people, came because of that one, because we were able to show that whether you need infrastructure, whether you need safety for your people, your different people who are part of your delegates and are accepted in Rwanda with no bias, no discrimination, all that happened because of that. So those are some of the events. But for example, CHOGM was a big one. That was a big part of my first year at RCB.
I spoke there. Actually.
Yeah, you did. At the
Youth Forum.
The Youth Forum, yes. Also, you see, I was at Inere. Again, we're fixing the venue. So, but again, you're thinking about 30 plus heads of state, different requirements, different of this, and you're trying to cater for that. FIFA, that was a big one. That one came to us a few months before, and we're like, oh, wow, this is amazing. Again, our leadership is amazing in that sense that they're able to attract those kind of events. But FIFA they've been doing this for years. Yeah. So they have lots of great experience in event management and how they do the events, what they need, what they do, whatever. It was really great for us to learn from them. It was really good for us to learn from them. But again, we're like, are we able to do this? Will we be able to do this in a few months that we have, And we were. So I think looking at the resources that we have, like I said, we're not a big country or a wealthy country or oil-rich country where you can just throw money at your problems. We have limited resources. We have to be able to use our resources in the best way. Human resources, we're not a big government where you have thousands and thousands of people who can just leave their jobs for every other event. No, you have to use the people you have and use it in the best way. I mentioned infrastructure. So those are some of the challenges I think that we had before. But I think now where we're at, we're in a good place. We're in a good place. So now it's like, how do we maximize what we've achieved and take it to the next level with what we have? Yeah.
What has been, when you look at, in entrepreneurship, the best thing is always getting customer reviews.
Yeah.
What is the thing that keeps coming back when it comes to the customer reviews that you receive?
Yeah.
That always stands out. What is that one or two things that people always mention about Rwanda?
Yeah, for sure. When we do our surveys, because we do surveys often in the conferences, so we always do surveys, and we always look at the feedback, because it's not just about the numbers like you mentioned earlier, like you asked me about the data, but the other kind of data, like what are people saying? People are always about our cleanliness and safety. People will be like, I took a run last night when I came in, near my hotel, and it's like the lit streets, the clean streets, the, security, that was a big thing. How easy it is to get here. The fact, again, you asked about the bureau. It's not, there was many things the government did. National airline carrier, Rwanda Air, is a great support to us. Great selling point. Because what we tell people is like, if you want to maximize the number of people who are coming, especially in Africa, because we know how hard it is to travel in Africa, Rwanda Air is going to get people there. And when it gets people there, the visa is going to allow them to get in there. Because, traveling in Africa is hard with all the different visa conditions that exist in every country. But we have the way to get there, and we have a way for them to enter in a seamless way. So those are some of the things that get back to us. And also the organization of events. Again, like I mentioned, because we have standards, we really work really closely with event organizers to make sure that events go without a hitch, we try to minimize their challenges that would exist maybe somewhere else where they're like, oh, I didn't know how to do this. We try to eliminate that. You need to know where to get a decorator last minute. We'll help you find a decorator. You need to know how to add more sound or more screens or whatever. We'll find a way to do that. Transport. Your delegates need to go from airport to venue. We got you. So I think the fact that RCB is there, and it's not just a marketing and sales office like it is in a lot of other countries. The fact that we have an events coordination department to be there to say, we got you. No matter what time, of the night, we'll help you get through your issues, through your challenges in hosting an event in Rwanda. So, and that reflects in a seamless program for people. They want a bit of culture. We'll find you a dance troupe, So really, I think that's really some of the feedback we get. People love the conference. And like I said, like if it's a conference where we're even able to give a bit on the programming, the content side, if we're able to get some ministers to come speak or young people like yourself to come and speak, that adds a lot to the experience of delegates. Yeah. And for the people who even go beyond tourism, they say, I was able to go see, I didn't plan to do this, but maybe I had a day extra and I was able to go to Akajira National Park and see the Big Five. I didn't plan for that, but you guys made it easy for me because it's right there. You're telling me to go register to book my tour because there's a desk, there's a visit Rwanda desk at my hotel. I'll do it. Yeah. So that's some of the key feedback we get.
Yeah. And talking about impact on a different scale now, or different side, let's look at businesses in the country, right?
Yeah.
So this big event is happening. 8,000 people are in the country, and for me, I get to learn about this event happening, and then what I do is I start upgrading.
Yeah.
Upgrade my business. Yeah. Right. Buy new chairs. Yeah. AC. All kinds of things, because I know that it's gonna be one of the things that I'm gonna try to attract a lot of these people to come to my business. I'm thinking about sustainability. Yeah. Right here for small businesses, right, where they make this investment, this event happens.
Yeah.
I'm almost thinking that for you as a CEO, then you start looking at these businesses. You're like, okay, oh my God, I need to bring more businesses for these guys, because otherwise, they get an influx of 8,000 people, 8,000 clients, in 2 weeks. After the 2 weeks, business goes back to normal, and then they've invested in a bunch of different things in upgrading their business. So I'm thinking, are you guys thinking about that?
Yeah.
As an institution, so that it doesn't become just a one-time thing, that we only get money when an event is going to happen. What are you guys thinking about that?
So, thank you. I think So those are kind of like mega events. There's no country that hosts a mega event every month. Right? Even the big country, even the big economies don't. It's really...
It's like I'm starting a business betting for that.
Yeah, we wouldn't invite you to that.
I want Janice to bring me more business every day.
Do not rely on that. So that's the thing. So I think it's to be flexible. For example, if you are targeting, and that's why we really want our ecosystem to work together, right? If you buy 500 chairs or 1,000 chairs, because when looking at businesses, most of the time, these days, our conferences are between the 300, 400 and up. So maybe you buy 500 chairs. I buy another 400 chairs. Someone else buys that. So even in the setup, we always tell event organizers, you'll never get a place that has all these chairs. Maybe the KCC can't do it because they have more events regularly, but let's share our resources. So for example, if I get the opportunity to be the main conference organizer, I'll call Yusuf and say, hey, can you please lend me those 400 chairs? I know you got those white chairs. I got the black chairs. I know someone else got blue chairs. Then we find a way to kind of mix and match them, or we find a way to have them in different rooms, theme, decorate them or dress them up. So that's what we want people to do. I don't want all my PCOs to have 10 screens or 13 screens. I'd rather you have 3, 4, 5 good ones, good quality, international standards, so that people can come and say, okay, it's not the biggest market. We're not South Africa, or we're not the biggest market. But when you do come here, there's quality events. When you do, quality equipment, good skill set, because even when you look at the number of staff that people have, I don't expect you to have 100 staff. But you can have 50 and I can have 50, and we can share, we can bid for events together. It's really, and it's what you see in other economies. People work together. No one can do everything alone. Right? Even the cars, even the fleets. You can't have 100 V8 Land Cruisers sitting in your parking lot. No, maybe have 50, then someone else, and you get another category of cars, and you get another, and then you share a business, right? That's how I would advise people. Like we really, and find something that you're good at and maximize it. So if you're good at writing programs, as Yusuf, then do that. That can be your skill set. If you're good at translation, that could be your thing too. Don't try to do everything. Don't try, because then you're spreading yourself too thin and you may not be good at everything. But if you're good at creating a program, finding speakers, all that, there's consultants who literally just do that. And that's why there's so much to do in the industry. Don't just think about the big things that everyone sees. There's so much you can do even as an individual, even as a small business owner. When we have, Women Deliver worked with the Women's Cooperative in Nyamirambo to do gift bags, right? They were able to work with the small cooperative. The small cooperative was able to deliver on the bags they needed with the right lead time. Because also one thing, don't come to me the day before asking for 6,000, but give me enough lead time. It means I hire more people, maybe some freelancers or contractors for that time. I deliver on what you need to do. And then those contractors go back to maybe another cooperative or another organization they work for. But at least we were able together as maybe 3 companies to deliver for one event. Because that's how you have to work. It's really hard to own the whole value chain. You can't be the farmer and the delivery and the chef at KCC. You have to break it up.
That's true. And perhaps that's where the association that you were talking about could come in and help, right?
For
because
sure.
Now you're bringing people together and say, hey, how do we work together there?
And we're hoping this association will cover venues, professional conference organizers, ushers. So it's going to have different verticals basically. So that everyone's kind of under one thing, but they all work together. So that if RCB says, hey guys, listen, this every January, this events we have, this is what we're projecting. How does everyone see themselves fitting into it? And already people are doing it. There's some people who don't go for the 5,000, 6,000 event. They go for the 500 to 1,000 because there's maybe 30 or 40 of those in a year. That could be your business plan, right? There's people who go for corporate events. So that's like the MTN company kind of events, or they go for more government event or more, there's people who literally focus on themes like climate or, environment, and that's their niche. And that's great. You could do that too, because there's so many of those workshops and events throughout the year and meetings and stuff like that. So, it's really good.
And then going back to your sales department, are you also thinking about, because surely getting a contract with let's say an organization or government or a company, where they could give you a contract to host one event, every year for a certain number of years is better.
Yes.
Even for the businesses that
Sure.
locally, right?
Yeah.
When we're talking about the sustainability of the businesses,
Yeah.
a small business owner, I'm like, oh my God, I'm praying for another Chogum, so I can sell more, I can sell more catering services.
For sure.
So surely, the strategy is, would be better, serving the community better if it actually focused on contracts where a country could hire you for many years.
Yeah.
But then, is that challenging? How is it? Is it easy to get those? Are they specific requirements?
Like, do you mean like contracts in terms of partnerships with event organizers, like to stay in country?
I don't know. I mean more like
the private sector.
No, like when, let's say, for example, you organize Chogum every 3 years, and then you bid for it, and you win for the next 20 years.
Okay, yes.
And then you can host it for the next 20 years. Then it's easy to be able to project and share information with local businesses.
So that's the thing. So that's really one of our key strategies right now. Go for recurring events. So in the previous years, of course, there was the one-off events there, and at that point, you just want people to come to your country at this point. We just want to showcase our destination. We want to break through the barriers that we have as a small new player in the industry. We just want you to come here and discover what Rwanda has to offer. Yeah. Once you come here, we do follow up with you to see, are you able to come back at least every other year? Because sometimes there's rotational and they have their thing. If not every year, every other year. And we do have that. We have this conference in education technology conference called e-learning that we've so far hosted 3-4 times. Yeah. And we have a partnership with them. The government of Rwanda has a partnership with Global Citizen, Move Africa, which is a 5-year, the concert that had Kendrick Lamar last year. Yeah. They're going to come for the next 5 years too. Starting last year. Yeah. BAL, the Basketball Africa League, the Mobile World Congress that happens every October. For sure, having partners like these help us. Because like you said, you're able to predict. BAL, for sure, what we were experiencing the first year, when it was COVID, 2021, and now where we are now, our partnership has grown so much in terms of us being able to predict what each side needs, how to improve the event, because we can sit down and say, listen, 2021, we did it this way. 2022, we did it this way. How in 2024, we're going to make it different? Which artists can we bring back that are different? Which teams are coming back? Even the experience for the players who come back, like all that is necessary. Their capacity building is also able to, because BAL is one of the first international sports events we were able to attract and to keep here. They've been able to train, not just from my perspective, I've learned a lot from them and my team has, but also in sports management, event management. DJs knowing how to DJ a live basketball game, and how artists go on and all that, like running the show. Our MCs, before they used to always, like the first year they brought all their MCs from outside. Now they're mostly Rwandan, and also even sports commentators. You have like Usher, Kondisha being there because she's Rwandan, yes, or African at least, but because of them being able to stay here longer. I think they have like 4 to 5 Rwandans on their staff now, who go with them to different markets, not just for the Rwandan market, to other markets in sports operations, in medical, in different team management elements. And that's because they started here. We were able to learn from them. They identified great talent that they can continue to train. And that helped. Same as Move Africa, Global Citizen. One of their main goals of that partnership is capacity building. How do you have a world-class concert, entertainment, from security to usher, volunteers who help and their sponsors through like MasterCard. How did they get involved? The creative industry, you saw ballet dancers, you saw dancers from like Sherry Silver's founder, all these people were part of it. But even the back, the sound and AV team, they learned from this team that came from there. They don't bring a whole team. And hopefully by the end of 5 years, majority of people may be Rwandan. Maybe they had 20 people that come this year. Maybe they'll have 1 or 2 people come in the film. So that's how we really see that transfer of skills and why we want to build those partnerships with these long-term events. Yeah. GSMA, the Mobile World Congress, happens in Barcelona for many years. They created the Africa edition that we host here. And again, the teams that have worked with them have learned how to put on a world-class exhibition. How do you gain sponsors? How do you sell? How do you build for their needs? All that. How do you create content for public and private sector that would be interesting for them? Africa CEO Forum came back. It was first hosted in 2019. They came back this year because of the great relationship and great event that they had in 2019. So for sure, if I would be happy if we have like 20 recurring, at least once a month, one event that's happening that's come back before.
Yeah.
That would be our goal.
Definitely much better.
Mm-hmm. Because like you said, like then what they do, they stay with sometimes the same suppliers who then learn more and more and more, and how to fit their needs, and not just being like, oh, okay, I guess we'll work with you. No, it's like you've learned, you're part of my team now, right? I now have a team in Rwanda who can deliver my event to to our expectations and beyond. So that's what we want to be. That's what we want to be.
Where's the opportunity for the private sector, right? There might be somebody watching and listening to us, and they're like, okay, seems like a lot is happening in this country. I see a bunch of cars moving around. I want to make some of that money as well, right? Where's the business opportunity, right? Because I think I was talking to a few friends the other day who are in the tech space, and we were always talking about that timing is important, right? Even in tech, with the new advancement in AI,
for sure,
then you can see a lot of AI use cases, and then you can build a company that builds a great product, and then you can start selling because there was this infrastructure. So the fact that Rwanda has been able to build this, let's say, foundation of building these events and building a good reputation and building key infrastructure also opens up the eyes of a lot of private investors and say, hey, where can I make, where can I do a business and make a profit? So you're in the space. You're the right person to tell us, as the private sector. You're organizing these events. What are the things that are missing? What are the things that you're like, hey, I wish some of our private sector players would, give us some of these things more, or build these products. Where's the opportunity here?
There's various, and there's various levels of investors, right? There could be small businesses, but there can be the big investors. Like I mentioned, infrastructure. If you can build me an exhibition hall of over 20,000 or so square meters tomorrow, I'm looking for you, right? I'm sure I'll find the city of Kigali to give you the land to do it. So there's that level, further investments are going to be made in transport. That's a conversation also city of Kigali is having. How to let people get around our city easier. We have a bus system is getting better every day. Maybe we'll have a tram in the future. Maybe we'll have a subway in the future. Whatever it is, we need to find a way to get people around the city easier. Then there's other kind of investments. Like I mentioned earlier, you can have a specific skill set in, say, communications. We can have a great marketing agencies. Like I mentioned, all these sports, we're going to become a sports and entertainment hub. Right? But that's our goal. Sports and entertainment, a lot of this marketing. You should now be right now thinking about how can I become the marketing agency for the stars and the artists and the people who are going to come in, or the sports events that we're going to have in the future. How do I tap into that? If you're a university student, are you learning sports management? We're seeing in the last 2-3 years, we've seen more people study sports management who approached us for jobs because of BAL. They're like,
really?
Wow. I'm telling you,
who's teaching sports management?
So I don't know, not in Rwanda. A lot of people have, for different courses outside, and some of them even just like do online courses just to even get some knowledge of it. We're seeing a lot of people have MICE or the MICE industry skill being taught at schools like the university, the tourism universities. We're seeing more people going to customer centric, like hospitality, the Vatels, the Kilas have been there, University of Tourism, Rwanda, even our TVETs. Our TVETs are looking woodwork. To build a stage, you need to know how to use wood. There's certain ways to treat the wood. When we talk to Monumental, we're like, do you have this kind of skill set? Because a new client asks us for this, they'll be like, oh, we actually don't, but we can figure it out. Steel work. And how do you build how big stage safely? Printing. We're still printing banners. We're still printing, whether it's on a cloth, but we're still doing that. Graphics. You see all that stuff that happens on the screen. There's people who do it. There's designers that do it. There's people. So that's what I was saying. Like our industry touches on so much. It's for young people and business owners to figure out what they're good at, tap it and become good at it, and market your skill set. Cause like when I look at what Move Africa was able to do, They went to Sherry Silver, and because she, of course, has a foundation, she shares what the young people are doing there. There's music schools. When they ask us, tell me a music school in Rwanda, I'll be like, oh, there's, the Rwanda music school in Yundo. There's, Sherry Silver's thing. There's the different foundations and different organizations that are doing this. Dance troops. You look at all these different dance troops that have come up when a few years ago we had 2 or 3. So all that is important. So I don't want to sit here and say it's one or the other, that you have to come to RCB, because RCB is not there. Because Yusuf came into Rwanda, landed on Rwanda Air, got his visa, came into the country, and is setting up an event. He wants to set up the next, youth conference. You're going to go and look for different people. You're going to go sit down and say, I don't know, a coffee thing. Hey, do you know someone who does graphic work? They're like, oh yeah, I do. Actually, talk to my friend, Janet. Oh, do you know someone who has a transport company? Oh yeah, talk to my friend, so-and-so. They don't have to step foot at RCB. But did RCB make sure that ecosystem exists and it's good, it has certain standards and it's safe and you know what? Yeah. So I try not to force people to be in a bubble and think, government's going to be the way you get every single job. And you guys know this in the private sector.
Yeah.
You create solutions. You find a challenge, you create solutions. You meet people along the way who could be potential clients. Just like that. Come to networking events. I'm not stopping you to coming to RCB and getting information. I'm not. Please, everyone's welcome to come to RCB and share what their talent is and share what their skill set is. But what I want us to be is a bit hungry. Get out there and look for some of what you can get out of this MICE industry. Yeah. Because if there's 95 plus million that was generated in the traditional sources, I can't imagine what untraditional, like the informal ones that were not accounted for. We have tour guides. There's a tour guide license that you get. You go, you apply for it. There's certain skills that they look for. Who stops you from being a tour guide? I don't know if you've seen these videos on YouTube where people do food tours, right?
I saw that, yeah.
You don't need RCB to start a food tour. You grew up in Kigali. You know what's good about Kigali, right? Why not start a pub crawl for young people or who want to discover the nightlife in Kigali? You don't need a car. You can partner with a company that has a car.
True.
Pay them some money, but you're doing you're doing the tour. Right? I don't know if that makes sense. Like, I really there has to be a bit of creativity. And when you see the markets that are a bit more developed than us, it's because everyone's just doing something. There's an event, we have a trade show that happens in Las Vegas. I've never seen tourism being done at that level. They have an event, they have many events every day, but people are always doing something. Someone's selling I love Las Vegas t-shirts on the street, I love this. And, there's always ways to do something. Yeah. And don't wait for RCB to be the one to tell you what to do. Yeah. Because it's not, our job is to make sure people keep on coming and that the ecosystem's there. Yeah. Find a way, find your little place in that ecosystem.
What does the next, let's say, 5 years for RCB look like, right? What are the things that, again, we talked about this in the beginning, but, now that I have a lot more context, maybe you can give me a bit more info on that. What are you thinking? What's on your mind? What are the things you want to do? You're looking at the competition. Yeah. Again, competition is huge, right? Because you want to do an event in Africa, you're thinking about, Morocco. That's pretty nice. Sure. They have an amazing access to the sea. For sure. I have Nairobi here. I have South Africa. Yeah. But okay, Rwanda seems interesting. There's a couple of use cases, a couple of testimonials that I've seen. But what do you want to do in the next 5 years? Yeah.
So next 5 years, one, as a government institution or government company, we have NST2 that we're part of, right? I don't know if you saw this. I think it's goal 10 under Visit Rwanda, whereby we have to double our revenues in the next, 5 years or so. So for us, that's a big goal. It's how do we really increase the revenues and our contribution to the economy? So that's one. In increasing revenues, we want to increase jobs, because that's also part of the NST2 is how to have, I think they say, decent and productive jobs. So like we were saying before, it would be great if in 5 years we can say we've created a certain amount of jobs, 100, 200, 400, 5,000, 100,000 jobs that are part of the MICE industry, right? So that we really have people who see themselves, like you're asking, see themselves in this industry. I'm a creative. 6 months in a year, I'm able to make money from these many different events. I'm a farmer. I can predict my produce, or I can predict my what outcome, harvest, basically. Yeah. And what I'm going to make from it because I'm contribute to something, I know I sell chicken to these many venues and hotels, because they have these many guests every year. I can invest in more farmland maybe to grow more of this product because this is what people like. So what I want to see, I think also made in Rwanda as part of NST too. One thing for sure we would like to see as RCB is having our products being sold to at least everyone who comes to Rwanda. Right? Leave with more than just coffee. Leave with coffee, tea, an outfit, and love it. Be like, this is great quality, we see, so yeah, every person that you've interacted with is highly skilled. From the ushers at the airport, from the people you met at immigration, to the sound and AV people who were at the conference. We want every event to be high quality. And if it's not, there's also a way to report that or to share that feedback in a very systemic way where it's like, okay, there's an association that we were able to report to, and they're going to deal with what we gave. In 5 years, it'd be great if we have, like I mentioned, maybe 15 in a year recurring events. Like every year they come back. That would be great. And if some of these recurring events are homegrown, even better. If Yusuf, you open your future tech conference in Rwanda, that's what I want to hear. If there's an education, if there's our doctors at Faisal, decide to put themselves together. The Cardiology Association has a Rwanda cardiologist and then tracks people from outside. That would be great. Because we're here to advise you what to do. Why wait for someone else to bring you the event when we can create our own? Rwanda has so much to share. That I feel that there's so much potential for us to open up. And like we said earlier, data driven. If in 5 years from now, there's an app that, is able to get, figure out where people are spending, then get feedback. Maybe like there's a quick survey way to respond and give RCB direct feedback on like I have a dashboard in my office and, it says, okay, this delegate didn't like the food at this place. How do I respond to that? Or we got this, this response that they love this. How can I then advise, this company to increase, this product? Maybe they love the latte at this cafe. So I'll tell that cafe, hey, listen, they really love the latte. So maybe you should, do this. So that's really where we want to be, like where we're just really helping people make smart investments, that will have great return on investment. Sports and entertainment. That's where we want to be. There's lots of different things happening around us. We've signed on with BAL for how long? Next year hosting the UCI, the Road Championships for cycling for the first time in Africa. In other countries, it goes up to 20, 30,000, people. Already since we announced that we won the bid, I think this was 2 years ago, 3 years ago, Tour de Rwanda attendance has already started increasing. Because people want to know what's going on in Rwanda. How did they win this bid? What are we expecting in 2025? So will Tour de Rwanda one day be that? Hopefully. Will our marathon one day be the Boston Marathon, the New York Marathon, the Berlin? Yes, it definitely has the potential to do that. Because we get feedback that it's one of the most challenging marathons. And if we were actually to rank them, it's actually a pretty challenging marathon. So yeah, we want that, Yeah. We're talking to different people who have Ironman. Yeah, I don't know if have you ever gone to Ironman before?
Not yet.
You should. It's
one of my close friends. I did it.
So even as a spectator, it's great to see average people, like regular people, being great athletes. Like someone who's able to run, to run, then going from the water to running to bike. Like seeing that and seeing that it's hosted in Rwanda in a secondary city, not just Kigali. We're now going to Rubavu and using their natural resources to host this event. If I have an event in 5 years, if we have an event in, say, Muhanga, if we're able to host events in Karongi and Kamembe, because Kamembe Rwanda Air flies there, why not? That's going to be great too. We really want to spread out also the economic impact of the MICE industry beyond Kigali. So yeah, that's really what we want to see.
Yeah, I was also Formula One as well.
Hey,
that's interesting.
That's going to be interesting too. The dreams. And so it's really, there's lots going on. And, like you said, the competition is not letting up. The competition is not letting up. You're seeing in our region, lots of convention bureaus are coming up. Lots of convention centers are being built. And some of these even up further east, there's countries that have, or even west, there's countries that have more money than us. What will Rwanda's selling point be? And that's what we're focused on right now. We need to really hone in on what we're good at and make sure people know it and keep on coming back for that.
Yeah.
That's what we want.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Going back to Janet.
Yeah.
How does your day-to-day look like?
Oh, the one thing about our industry is that you plan and things will go the other way, which is what keeps it exciting.
Exactly.
So I always, whenever people are like, you experience this, whenever people are like, oh, can we meet on Wednesday? I'm like, yes, my heart wants to meet on Wednesday, but will we get this? So, cause like I said, we are a client-driven institution. So if I have to meet with you, but yet a client who potentially bring me a very big deal, you're also very important. But if I need to solve their issue and their challenge and their email or their call, I have to hop on a call them right away. That is also a priority. So we have to be really responsive to our clients. There's our government stakeholders too. So there's the sales part, but then also there's the event coordination part. So I'm always engaged with my team, what events are happening, what challenges are these events facing, whether it's an event of 100 people or 1,000 plus people, we have to help everybody. One of our main mandates is to give a guidance in event implementation. So we have always a team that's assigned to each event. So we check in with them, see how it's going there. On the sales side, how many bids are we working on right now? Which letters of endorsement do we need from our government stakeholders? Which conversations? Who do I have to convince? Because sometimes, we have to sometimes sell to also our government. Why is this event worth investing in? So those kind of conversations are happening. So it's really dynamic day for me most of the time, and it keeps it interesting. And I'm grateful. It's a job I didn't think I'd be able to handle. When I remember when I first joined as deputy CEO, then when they made me CEO, I was like, are you sure? Again, I always ask this question. Me? Are you sure it's me? But I'm happy that I'm able to work with great people at the bureau.
Yeah.
I have hardworking young people, actually like a lot of average ages in the mid-30s at the bureau. So we're really hardworking. We enjoy our time together, which is really hard to find. Building the right team. We always say you'd think we do personality tests because we do the traditional way of interviewing, but we always just land on great people who are just get in there, and you think they've been there for 10 years and, they just understand what we're trying to do, and in their own departments and own tasks, they're able to deliver. So
you do personality tests?
No, you would think we do. You'd think we do, because people just come in and fit in right away, and you're like, did I know you before? What happened? How do you understand all our jokes and, and it's a tough job too, huh? It's long hours, especially there's long hours, there's pressure. There's the risk is high sometimes for, especially a bid. You're seeing an event that could potentially bring millions to Rwanda, and they're just asking you for a few things, and you're like, how do I get this done? How do I, they're asking us to contribute this much, and you're like, okay, we're a country of minimal resources. How do I make sure? So that's when we look for the right partners, which is really great. That's why, I'm very, again, because of working in government for a bit of time, I'm able to talk and able to really kindly ask ministries and ministers to help sometimes. Because if I can sell you on this, say, health event, and say, listen, this health event could bring thousands of people. All I need is a letter, or all I need is for you to find me a partner who can maybe pay for the venue or for transport. That's all we're asking. The rest is covered by them. Oh yeah, for sure. So the importance of MICE to our government and cabinet members is very clear, and they are all very supportive. And even our private sector, though, I'll go to KCC and say, listen, can you help us with a discount? Or, hotels and say, can we make a negotiated rates? Because, this event could bring lots of people, but they want preferred rates. So, and they're always willing to respond. So you spend your days doing that, making and trying to see how best to, at the end of the day, bring the event to Rwanda and make sure it goes well and leave happy. Exactly. Delegates leave happy. Delegates arrive and they have a good experience. They get to experience Rwanda, because you also don't want them to just be at the conference venue and they leave not knowing about Rwanda. So we always encourage them to get to explore the city. We have city tours that, show you, they take you to Kigali Genocide Memorial to learn where we came from. Then they show you they give you a tour of all the development areas, special economic zone, Norskin, like all these different things that are part of our future now too. And it's really good to see. People always like, wow, like if I left without knowing that, I don't think I would get an idea of where Rwanda had come from and where it's going. And it makes more sense why maybe this conference happened here, or, things like that. So it's really good.
Yeah. And speaking of people, how do you think your team will describe you? In, let's say, 3 words, 3 different words that they would use to describe you. If I was to ask them, hey, describe Janet in 3 words, well, what do you think they would say?
Definitely hands-on. Definitely.
Why is that important?
Hands-on because not micromanaging. There's a difference between micromanaging, right? Hands-on in the sense that I'm not afraid to get my hands dirty. Because again, when you have done different jobs in your life, there's no fear to go back to do something, If I'm with my team at the KCC at 10 o'clock at night and we have to deliver an event and people are lifting chairs, I'll lift a chair. Just because it's a title now doesn't mean or if it means drafting or negotiating with a client that maybe it was a bit hard for my team to make finish, I will get involved and help them. So it's that's what I mean by hands-on, like just being part of the team.
And why is that important in leadership and team building? What do you think that does to a team when they see you lifting a chair at 10 p.m.?
I think it's sometimes it's about, you're not above any role, right? And every job is important, especially in our industry. Like I said, from the people who bring the food out, from the people who do the sound and AV, from the people who put the chairs or, the drivers, it's very important, and every job is very important. And I think that's what I want to show my team is get involved with every aspect of this event. Don't say, oh, I don't know what happened at this place because that's not my business. No, it's our business everywhere. So that's why I want us to stay hands-on and know what's going on. Even as we grow as an industry where we may not be part of every single deal or every single whatever, but where we can, let's be hands-on. Let's figure out what's going on the ground. So that's why it's important. So that the RCB touches everywhere. We want the RCB touch to be everywhere. Yeah. Even though sometimes it can be invisible, but we were there. we know what's happening. Yeah. Ambitious. I think being ambitious is not bad. I want us to be ambitious as an organization. We have like I said, NST2 expects us to double our revenues and support the tourism revenues to double. So we have to be ambitious and we have to think beyond what we are. We're not the 20-year-old, bureau. We're a 10-year-old bureau. We're not 50 years in this game. No, we don't have budgets and budgets of money to give out. But we have to stay ambitious. We have to stay driven to get these events, these mega events, because one thing, like I said, if we're critical and we're good at assessing an event and seeing that there's a return on investment, there's going to be a partner or a government institution to support us in getting that event. So with that ambition, we have to be critical. We have to be aware of the resources of our country and use them to the best way. So in that ambition, that's what I want us to do. Last one, I always want to be kind as a person. I want to be understanding, empathetic, when the other night, I think a colleague called me at 12 a.m. She's like, I'm sorry, I woke you up. I'm like, no, it's okay. I'm awake. It's okay. Because she's at work. Why can I not answer her call to help me? I've had people call me at 2 a.m. at 3. You be there for them. Be there for my team. They, like I said, because we are a mixed generational institution. There's the Gen Zs, all that. They all have different ways of working and responding to instruction. They have different ways of understanding things. So we have to, and also we all grew up in different places in different ways, different education backgrounds and all that. So in my kindness, I want to be understanding of everybody and make them feel welcomed in my institution, in my office. I have an open door policy. Anytime anyone has an issue, we meet. I'm also confrontation in a good way, whereby I'm like, let's talk about this. Let's hammer it out. It's like, you have an issue with somebody or with me, let's talk about this, Sometimes a bit too democratic in our office, sometimes but it helps us. Our team meetings sometimes can go on for a few hours, but at least everyone feels like they were heard. And this is a culture I found there from my previous CEO. That's something I learned from her. And it's something I really think is one of our key to success as the bureau is how we work as a team. On last Friday, we had a team building because we'd been going straight 8 months straight. And we sometimes just take like, okay, guys, let's put the brakes on. Let's enjoy our time together. We're not telling someone to go there, get me this report, do this. We're just enjoying our time together, and we do enjoy our time together. So that's great too. So yeah, I just hope that that's what they leave with. And if they're ever in similar positions, if they're leading teams, if they're talking to people on sites, that's what I want them to represent an institution that is there for people and kind.
Yeah. Interesting. What does the CEO of RCB think about work-life balance? Sounds very intense.
Yeah.
The work
life. Yeah.
Work. And what's your take on that personally, but also for your team as well? Because when you work in this kind of environment, to me, when you're describing that, sounds like a startup to me. It sounds like you're running your own tech startup.
Yeah.
There's always everything is urgent.
For sure.
That's what a startup is.
Sure.
So what's your take on that, and how do you manage that personally? And what do you think about that for your team as well?
So we definitely encourage some work-life balance. The good thing about our industry is some. And one, at the core of it, I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I'm a daughter, I'm a friend, a sister, a leader in my manager, I can say. So all those things can't happen. They can't all be at 100% at the same time. That's impossible. There's going to be weeks where I work 12-hour days where I don't see my kids. Maybe I'm lucky if I see them for 1 hour in the morning or 2, and then I come after they're sleeping. Like today, luckily I got to see them during the day. I was at lunchtime, but and in the morning, so that means I sacrifice sleep. So right, you won't be a well-rested person of all these things. So you sacrifice something. But I think for a person is to find what you're able to fit into your day. For example, like I said, maybe I'll try and wake up early, and if I'm lucky, hang out with the kids because they're early risers, so I get to hang out with them. Maybe I'll stay up a bit longer to hang out with my husband. On the weekends, if I'm not working, prioritize, be intentional with the friends I do get to see and my family that I do get to see. And we encourage our staff. We all take leave at some point in the year. Maybe not all 30 days in one way. You can't go for a month. But around Christmas, there's downtimes in our industry, which is good. So usually December, end of December, early January. That's usually when we usually have our corporate retreat, is early January, until beginning of February. So we try to make sure everyone takes a few days to a few weeks actually during that time, because we know we're going to go on for a while.
Yeah.
If people come and say, I need the week, I need to do this, I need to take my kid for this. We also have young parents in our organization. Some people need to take care of their kids. Kids get sick. You can work from home. We try to be flexible. We try to be flexible because, like I said, we're working with a dynamic team. By the time you've worked a month straight of late nights and everything, and you ask for a leave for a week, we can afford to take we can afford to have someone off for a week because there's other people and then we rotate. And so I think everyone's really understanding of the schedule. And there's peaks, right? There's times where we are working like that, and there's times where it's like comfortable conferences where they finish at, certain times. And, we also work with private sector, remember? So we're not the ones doing all the work. So it's about how we manage all these relationships and all these things so that you are able to do more with your life.
Yeah.
And if by the time all our systems, if our PCOs also reach a certain standard where they're doing all really good and they have enough staff, and they will also reach a point where they're not staying at site until 1 a.m. or things like that. And some teams have grown to that. So yeah, I think that's there's no balance. There's no real, I don't believe, work-life balance.
Perfect life.
Yeah. There's this peaks. There's some days when you're really good at home and some days when you're really good at work. So
yeah. And then what are your non-negotiables? Everybody has some of those, where people are like, hey, after, in this case, I think you work 12 hours. I was going to say after 5 p.m. I was going to be like, after 9 p.m., my phone is off. Or every morning I have to run, right? That's part of my, the things that help me with my personal productivity. What are some of those things for you that helped you to be able to take on all the workload, balance all these different things?
Yeah. So with my team, like my immediate office, we know, for example, I like to, like I said, spend time in the morning, but then I still get to work 9 a.m. or whatever. But of course, before that, I've responded to emails or, stuff like that, messages, immediate things that need to be done with. I've learned over the years to prioritize. Like you said, everything's an emergency, but not everything's an emergency. There's things that are emergency and, that can wait an hour. Yeah. And there's things that, like, I'll never make a client wait or something, but if it's something for me that I have to maybe do for myself, I can maybe find a way to do it. If I can take the time to focus on a task, I'll do it. So I usually get in 9 a.m., have a few minutes. I prefer not to get right into meetings. So we tend to schedule meetings like 9:30, 10, but depending on the person who's asking for it, if they're able to do it, so that I can have time. That's when I usually catch up with what's happening in the office, because sometimes I've ended the day at a conference or I've ended the day at another meeting. So we catch up on what's happening. If any of the team has challenges, that's usually a good time for us to touch base too before they start their day, before they're off-site, going into different conferences and meetings. I usually like to take the hour in the morning to make sure, what are we doing? What's going on this week? What's going on today? A lot of the things like what's going on today, responding to all the emails that came in overnight that I didn't respond to right away or, things like that. So non-negotiable. I don't think I have strong non-negotiables. I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet.
You don't have any, not like one of those rules where like, hey, ice baths and stuff like that.
No, we don't have that yet. But I think just giving myself time, like sometimes I'm like, okay, like I'm one of those people likes to take time to do stuff. So I do sometimes ask like, okay, I need a break. Let me focus on this paper or this document and figure it out. But I don't have strong non-negotiables. Not there yet. Not there yet. I can't turn off my phone at 9 o'clock. I can't. I know people who do that around me, and it looks like a really great lifestyle. Not about there.
It sounds perfect.
Yeah. Maybe one day when I join you guys in the private sector.
Sorry?
When I join you guys in the private sector, I'll learn how to do that.
Yeah, you're more than welcome. Welcome to all the late nights now.
Yeah.
But what would be your advice for somebody who is, let's say, watching and just following your story?
Yeah.
And saying, okay, I'm inspired. I'm interested. What would be your advice to that person? And I think about it in a way, because I think whenever somebody gets that question, it's a bit vague, because you're like, okay, there's so many parameters that you have to think about. But potentially think about yourself, right? When you started off as an intern at RDB, now many years later, what would be your advice that you would give to your young self about the corporate world, public service, building a career, building a family? What would be some of the advice that you wish somebody would have told you that you can tell somebody else now?
Yeah. So it's like two extremes kind of sometimes for me. To be very hardworking. like some of them like more hardworking can I be actually, you know? And sometimes it can be hardworking, but be smart with your hardworking too, right? Figure out systems, figure out things that will go beyond you, right? Don't just run because you're running. Run with an aim. Run with where you're going. What are you trying to achieve, right? So to be very hardworking, I think going back to being, you asked about non-negotiables. I think also as a person, I'm very clear in what I want. I try to be very clear in what I want. I don't like to live in gray. I'm sometimes very black and white. And I think you can be black and white in a nice way, in a polite way. And I think I've tried to do that. Maybe sometimes not, sometimes to a fault. Like sometimes certain things don't always work out the way you want it to come off, but you try. And then be very clear of what you want, and then give yourself grace. So you see what I was saying, be hardworking, be very clear, be tough, but then give yourself grace, because when you start working for, say, a great organization or institutions or all this under government of Rwanda at 22, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to come off once in a while. You're going to come off a certain way and you'd be like, oh man, I shouldn't have said this, or I shouldn't have done that. You're going to make a decision that, you know, you have to figure out how to fix it. But you have to give yourself grace, because you have to wake up tomorrow and do something else. And as a CEO, a leader in my institution, I try to give myself grace. Maybe did I advise my team the best way? I hope so. Could I have done differently? Maybe. And sometimes the good thing that there's people I can consult with, right? I'm not alone in this. There's lots of people I can consult with and but at the end of the day, the buck stops with me in the immediate day-to-day work. And I have to give myself grace in being like, I don't know everything. I really don't. And I hope the people who appointed me don't think I know everything. But one thing they may know is that Janet will work hard to get to that everything. She'll try to learn. She'll try to consult. She'll try to bring on the right people. And she'll do it with, hopefully, kindness. She'll do it with respect. She'll do it with, with all that. So that's what I try. Like, give yourself grace as people. You're gonna make mistakes, but you have to get up the next day and continue working. Because when I think about where the future of this country is, I can't get bogged down by, oh man, I told them to put the screen on this side, but then the screen was supposed to be on that side. And, it wasn't the best experience maybe for the delegate. But what I'll do is like, okay, I made a mistake. So next week, I know I'll tell the screen to be on. I'll make sure the screen is on that side, or advise the people to put the screen on that side, or ask the client, how best do you think your delegate, like, you learn. And that's what I mean by giving yourself grace, is that you learn from your mistakes and let it be a lesson. Because that's the thing. Sometimes people make mistakes and don't learn. And that's where sometimes I have, challenges with people. I'm like, did we not talk about this last week? We learned from the previous experience, we put the cable here, the person trips. Now person trips again. No, fix it. So, but give yourself grace, but learn from that experience and make sure you do learn from it, because don't make the same mistake a few times. It's not that good. Yeah.
Janice, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Yusuf,
for an amazing conversation. Sharing your story, lots of learning to take out about hard work, but also, giving yourself grace.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest message there for a lot of young professionals who are, looking at your journey and getting inspired by it, but also for the amazing work that you and the team are doing, and to promote Rwanda as a destination for, MICE tourism, and you guys have done an amazing job. I think all of us, whenever we see an event, we say, oh my God, like, you can only imagine the amount of work that went into making this happen. And all of them we're always happy to see the kind of the fruit of the labor that your team is putting in. but also most importantly, from the private sector standpoint, the impact on businesses, right? I think we've seen a lot of businesses reporting, self-reporting, that they've seen a great boost in their revenues because a lot of the events that are happening, the events are pushing them to become more professional in their service delivery, but also to make sure that they, their standards are, up there because, who knows, you might get Kevin Hart, showing up to
Exactly. And that's what we're saying. Like when whichever tour guide woke up that morning and had Lewis Hamilton there, and next to you hearing him talking about Rwanda on the platform, it's because he had a great experience.
Yes.
So it's really, that's why we have to wake up and really be ready to deliver in every wherever you are, because you don't know what impact you're going to have on this country.
Yeah.
And this
job's not finished.
Not at all.
Yeah. So thank you so much. And I hope that this inspires people, but also we're calling upon private investors. Hey, help us.
We can. The bureau is only 40 people strong, but the mice industry has the potential. It's thousands and thousands of people. So there's a place for everybody. Just come up with a great idea and figure out how to be part of that journey. And we're here to help guide you. We're always there. Our doors are open. You have an idea, we'll tell you, come in and talk to us. We'll figure out how to implement it.
Yeah. Absolutely. We'll hold you up to that
Please.
promise.
Welcome.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Cheers.